Welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters, the home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker, Scott Kerschner, and Jeremy Baker. 419-794-3030 is the phone number, and the website is arhq.com. We've spoken about the 4% rule many times here on the show. It's been around for about 30 years. Basically, you can withdraw 4% of a portfolio safely in the first year of retirement, adjust for inflation annually for the next 30 years, and allegedly not worry about running out of money. But there's an article on Market Watch, guys, that says that the rule is blind to the new realities of retirement. One reason is it really disregards the fact that nobody knows how long retirement is going to last. So if the 4% rule isn't cutting it, if it never cut it, perhaps, is there a better way to safely withdraw money in retirement, yet still factor in that longevity risk?
I believe so. And the process is called the independent income system. And so the independent income system, if you Google that, I have a 15-minute video that walks you through the different threats and opportunities that a retiree faces. And it's, really why I believe it's kind of a better approach when you are looking for how to plan for longevity risk in retirement. The biggest concern that people have is outliving their income. And, the 60-40 mix is another rule that's out there. So you might want to have 60% of your money in bonds or 40% in equities. That 60-40 rule, if you look at the 4% withdrawal rule and you look at how a 60-40 portfolio has done over the last 3 or 4 years, a traditional 60-40 portfolio, because of what happened in COVID, and then you had another negative year in the market, and then you had 2 good years in there, it's really not gone much of anywhere. And then add on top of that the fact that somebody's pulling money off of their financial accounts. It's important, if not crucial, to plan for the longevity risk in retirement. Within the independent income system, some of the ways that we do that is we look at making sure that you have enough reliable income to cover minimum monthly income needs. I had a couple I met with last week that came out to one of our events that we had over at Mancy's, and we ended up having a conversation with them talking a little bit about Social Security. And they, like most people, just assumed that they were going to begin collecting Social Security right away at retirement time. But what we did is we ran a Social Security optimization report, and I know, Jeremy, you do a lot of these. In running that Social Security optimization report, the decision to collect benefits early versus waiting to what is the optimal time frame was a couple $100,000 difference over the course of their lifetime. Wow. And again, we're assuming life expectancy to the age 85. We don't know how long people are going to live till, but what we do know is the Social Security is something that's backed by the United States government. Obviously, it's in some financial turmoil, but it is something that's still strong. It's guaranteed for life. It's inflation adjusted. It has survivor benefits on side of there. It's a strong way to build something solid in there. So don't be like the 70% of people that ultimately draw Social Security early and take a lifetime reduction of benefits. Figure out how to optimize it, because you want to look at longevity. And I run into guys all the time in meetings. They'll be like, well, my dad, nobody in my family has ever lived past 75, and I did the break-even analysis, and I better get it while I can. My answer back to that is I'm betting on you living. Right. The technology that we have in healthcare today is dramatically better than what it is, let alone if you don't think you're going to live past 75. I don't want you sitting across the table looking at me. You're 76, and you're like, well, I wasn't supposed to be here, right? Yeah, right. So in longevity risk, to get rid of that risk, Social Security is extremely important. The other important area is to make sure you have enough reliable income to cover your monthly minimum income needs. There's a basic amount of money that every family has to have to cover the basics. And again, I'm not talking the fun stuff. I'm talking the basics. And I want you to go through, or I'll help you do this, but you want to go through the exercise of determining what is your family's minimum monthly income needs. And then from that, what you're going to do is you're going to subtract how much you're going to get from Social Security. You're going to subtract a pension. In that dollar amount, you may end up having a gap. So let's say a family needs $5,000 a month, and between pensions and Social Security, they're getting $4,000 a month. Right. They have $1,000 a month gap to cover their minimum monthly income needs. why I think the 4% rule or that 60-40 mix is a dangerous scenario is, that gap to me, in my opinion, that $1,000 should be something that's considered to be reliable income. And in often cases, what we would do is we would utilize some type of an annuity that's protected from market loss. So this, traditionally is going to be like a fixed annuity or an indexed annuity. So you have some type of principal protection. Some of these annuities also offer either different time frames that you can cover. So if there's only a gap of maybe 4 years till you get to optimization of Social Security, we can identify a 4-year period. Or if you're looking to cover that income gap in this example of $1,000 a month, we can go to the insurance companies of America and contractually figure out, what that gap looks like. The other thing I think when you think about longevity risk is back to your area, Scott. When you think of longevity, people are living longer, but as you live longer, some of the chronic illnesses, the things that people would traditionally just pass away aren't necessarily things that are people passing away from. People are ultimately just having chronic illnesses, which then could dramatically increase what your healthcare expenses are later on in life if you don't have a plan for long-term care.
The one thing, that's exactly right, Nolan. If you don't properly prepare for that, what I am seeing is the older people get, they do end up getting more of the chronic health conditions like you were mentioning. And a lot of the medications tied to those are very, very costly. And there again, if you don't have the resources or the caregivers, that you can depend on, you have to go into some sort of a assisted living type facility, which can be very, very costly. Nolan, as you were going through the longevity in that, something really struck out to me. Let's say the 4% rule. You've got someone that has retired in 2015. They're cooking along with the 4%. They've got things put in place. They think they're in good shape, right? All of a sudden, boom, 2020, COVID hits. The markets, everything was down. They needed more money to pay for inflational things, gas and the grocery store and all of these things that are higher cost now. So they pull money out of their investments just to live, right? Well, that kind of blows up that 4% rule, right?
Well, in addition to that, a lot of times people will retire and they're going to say, I'm going to live off 4%. But as you point out, either it's higher inflation or oopsie happens. So, things like I need to fix my basement because of it's leaking and, it's $30,000 or $40,000. In that independent income system, that's why we have down in that visual the emergency bucket, because life is going to throw you what ifs. And in addition to the 4%, you've got to have money set aside in that. Again, if you Google the independent income system, you can watch that video. It kind of walks you through these different threats and opportunities, kind of how to put it together. The gentleman who, originally created the 4% rule, if we look at some of the critics that are out there, there's other strategies to look at it, meaning that you don't look at it as inflation adjusted all the time either. When we develop financial plans and we go through our planning software, one of the defaults that is out there is an inflation-adjusted retirement spending, meaning that every year you're going to spend more. As you pointed out, COVID has really pushed up cost in different areas, such as dining out. I know the three of us, when we picked up my son last week from hockey camp, we went through a drive-through and fast food, and it was like $54 for the three of us. I was like, holy moly. It wasn't a sit-down restaurant. This is fast food. But the other thing that you need to factor in planning for these other expenses and areas that come up are looking at the fact that things don't always get more expensive every year for a retiree. My experience is a lot of times when people retire, in those beginning years while they're young and healthy, they're going to go travel. Go down south, spend more time down there, take the kids on those trips that they always wanted to do. But as you get later in life, your spending oftentimes can go down. When I think of my 75 to 85-year-old clients, their spending actually comes down. They don't go and travel to Florida or other places as much. Kids oftentimes come see them. It's unless you have that healthcare related expense. So if you're looking at that and you want to look at longevity risk and you're figuring out, what's that best approach? Again, YouTube, America's Retirement Headquarters. You can watch a video specifically on the independent income system for those threats and opportunities.
When it comes to something like the 4% rule or the 60-40 rule or the rule of 100, rule seems like a misnomer because it's not the law of the land. It honestly is an okay starting point, but you really want something customized towards you. Whereas the independent income system, it's right there in the name, independent, as it works for you specifically. And so to find out more about it, as Nolan said there, just Google independent income system, find that video about it, or you can also come in and speak with the team directly and see how it all works together for you. 419-794-3030 is how you set up that time. Once again, that number, 419-794-3030.